Hello everyone. If you watched my previous video about this car not starting in the cold weather on a cold morning, you must have seen that I wasn't really satisfied with not knowing what caused it. So I've decided to dig in a little bit and check some things out. In this second half of this video, I'll be doing a compression test, and I'll show you how I prepared the engine for that. I'll also replace that dirty air filter. I know that isn't helping anything. I had talked about replacing my plug wires because their resistance is out of tolerance, but it's low, not high. And I'm not detecting any misfires, either is the ECU. So unless I start detecting some misfiring, I'm satisfied the ignition system is okay for now. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay, now I'm going to be preparing things to do a compression test on this engine. So I need to take the power off the fuel pump and relieve the fuel pressure on the injectors. And I need to remove all the spark plugs. And I need to somehow open that throttle all the way. I'm not sure how that's done, so I'll figure that out. So when I get all the plugs removed, I'll show you the compression check. I'm removing the fuel pump fuse right here. It's a 15 amp fuse right over here. Now the fuel pump won't run while I'm trying to do a compression check. Okay, I'm releasing the fuel pressure on the system here. I think this is the pressure line here, and there's just a hose clamp with a Phillips head screw, which was actually not that tight. So let's see if that will release fuel pressure. I don't want it to go all over the place either. I'm sure there's another way to do this. There's a quick release connector in the fuel line, but I couldn't easily get it apart, so I didn't waste time with it. And the pressure is relieved from the injectors. And there's no reason to leave that apart. I'll just put it right back together again. Okay, the air box has a bolt here and one here with a 10mm head. I just removed those. This thing here pulls out, tees off to another tube that goes down to the bottom of the air box, and there's a hose clamp on that which was actually missing on my engine. So that's cool. And now there's a pretty good size hose clamp over here around the throttle body entrance that I need to loosen up. Okay, so here's the throttle body. This is the air intake for the whole engine. And if you reach inside here with your fingers, you'll hit a plate that is closed. It's a round butterfly. It's got a spring load on it, pretty spring loaded. And you can open and close it, but it will spring return. So I'm going to use that soft, pliable rubber of the spark plug boot to wedge it open. That's got to be open to allow air to easily flow through the intake while you're taking the compression test. That seems like a safe way to do it. If someone knows a better way, please let us know in the comments below. In order to gain access to the two spark plug holes on this side of the engine, I'm going to remove the air box. There's two of those plastic plugs that hold this part in. It just slides into the air box. Yeah, that filter can be replaced. So I think that gives us enough access so I can get in there and remove the spark plugs. Well, I'm going to try a socket with a 6-inch extension because I do have a pretty straight shot at this on cylinder number 1. Yeah, that gets in there. I can even extend it a little farther and get this flex head ratchet on there. And there it is. Let's see how that looks. That looks to be in really good condition. Nice and clean. No signs of carbon, no signs of wear. And the porcelain isn't cracked. That's a good plug. And that was from cylinder number 1. I'll put that over here. And this car does call for platinum plugs according to the manual. Oh, and by the way, the base of this plug doesn't have any oil on it. So 2 3-inch extensions are a little bit shorter than a 6-inch. So I'm going to give this a try. See if I can get that onto the socket now. Yep. And now there's just enough space where I can get this ratchet on it. I got it loose. I can sort of turn it by my fingers now. There's a little bit of resistance, but I can turn it. Because the space is so limited, in order to remove the tools and the spark plug, I pulled the assembly out far enough to remove the first 3-inch extension, then the second, and finally the socket with the plug still in it. Okay. We got it that time. The base of that plug has no oil on it, which was a concern back there if you recall. The plug's in excellent condition. Really no carbon buildup. It's nice and clean and no signs of wear. That's number 3. All 4 plugs look good. You can see down there, I think. Right down here. Let's see if I can show you. Right here, that's the hole for cylinder number 2 spark plug. And cylinder number 4 is back here. I don't know if the camera can see that. So I'm switching back to the 2 3-inch extensions again. It just works better because as you're trying to back the plug out, the end of the extension hits, well in this case, the side of the battery. So if you can pull off the 3-inch one of the extensions, you can have more space to keep pulling the plug out. This doubled 3-inch extension method works good. That's not quite yet. Of course, if you want more space to work, you can always pull the battery out. That'll make number 2 a lot easier. And it'll make number 4 a lot easier also, but I think it's working fine this way. Okay, I'm using my old trusty Matco compression tester I purchased in like 1979. This end threads into the spark plug hole by hand, but there's a rubber O-ring on it to make sure there's a good seal. I've replaced this tube over the years, but I know it's reliable and sealed. And so we're also counting on the seal in this coupler to still be good, as well as the pressure release seal, this little valve on this little valve here. So I tried to set it up the best I could to maybe get a shot with the camera. Here's that tube. Going down in there, trying to get it threaded into the spark plug hole. I think it started. Yeah, it is. Okay, it's in there. It only hand tightens against that O-ring on it, and that's all it takes. Let's see what kind of compression this cylinder has. You just turn the engine over and you can watch that gauge bump up. I'm going to say about 182, 183. That's pretty darn good. You might not realize these engines have a 10-to-1 compression ratio. And the spec is 148 to 185 psi. So this cylinder is near the high end of the compression specification. That's awesome. Let's move on to the next one. Cylinder number 3. Wow. 190 psi compression on this cylinder. Remember, that's number 3. That's one of the ones that seem to be bad as far as the high voltage on the spark goes. So this compression is awesome. Yeah, I'm psyched about that. Try to count the hits. I'm trying for 8 hits. Might have been 9. This is cylinder number 3, which was another one of the ones that had a weak spark, so-called, that we thought, or that I thought. And that's 185, 186, 187. So that's 2 psi higher than the highest specification for this engine. I'm amazed. This is fantastic. Let's hope that the last cylinder, number 4, looks just as good as the first 3. And this is cylinder number 4. Here we go. 8 hits. And drum roll. Oh, it looks good. That is... Wow, wait a minute. Now that's around 188, which is incredible. Again, the high end of the compression pressure specification for this engine is 185. The spec is 158 to 185. And here I'm reading like 188. That's fantastic. It's good to know the Felpro head gaskets I put in 3 years ago are holding up. The engine hasn't leaked a drop either. Okay, I'm going to put the plugs back in, and basically I'm going to get this engine ready to run again. And I'm going to order some new spark plug wires and see if that makes a difference. disconnecting the sensor, the airflow sensor, and loosening up the two hose clamps on this air duct. Then this can just pull right off. There's two clips on the top of this air filter box. There's a hose clipped on the side of it you can pull out. And that's that. Here's the filter. This one's very dirty, at least on that side. On the inside it's not dirty, it looks clean, so it's been doing a good job. Here's my new filter. Goes in this way. Now when you're reinstalling this, there's these two tabs that hang down and they lock into two slots down on the bottom there. You've got to get those lined up. Those are just spring-loaded latches. That's it, it's locked. Put the hose back in where it was, in the clips on the side of the filter box. Everything looks like it's in place the way it should be. Tighten the hose clamps. Make sure that's on there all the way. And that's that. Ever since that one hard start, the car's been starting like a summer day every time. Even before I lifted a finger to look at things. So I might never realize the difference, but at least now I know the engine condition better than I did before, and I think it's time to leave it be, wait and see. Thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like and subscribe.